Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, when you go to your veterinarian for your pet's checkup or they have a procedure done, you may question the prices charged for their services. But as it turns out, vets have a reason for the costs based on the services offered. And here to tell us more about this and some of the issues that vets face in TNT is president of the TNT Veterinary Services and founder of the Tobago Animal Hospital, Dr. Paul Crooks. Dr. Crooks, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I think we should have you on your own segment now, Doc, but we'll talk about that a bit later because it's always a pleasure to have you.
Off the
And
air,
of
off the
course,
air.
the knowledge that you share with us. And I want to start off there because I know that we were having a conversation off air and you were talking about haggling, right? But in terms of prices for services, is there a way that a vet will determine how they charge for certain prices? For example, whether it be grooming versus surgery, that sort of thing.
Well, I want to make clear to the viewers, and thank you for having me. Thank you for the question. I really want to make clear to the viewers that vets run a business. And that means that all business costs that could be attributed to any other business would be attributable to vets as well. Vets have to pay taxes, vets have to pay overhead, vets have bills to pay, salaries to pay, they have to maintain vehicles, they have to purchase supplies, medications, they have to be able to repair and replace equipment. So when a vet sets a price, the price is not based on emotions necessarily, how much the vet loves the animal. And the truth is, many vets, when they start vet school, get in there to try to help those who can't help themselves, help animals that are unable to speak and say, I am suffering in this way. They get in with that passion and desire to help. But when the vets graduate, they suffer burnout and compassion fatigue, mental disease. Vets are among the highest, the profession with the highest suicide rate globally. We're among the highest. I think we're right up there with dentists. And the truth is that a lot of that comes down to the struggle every day for the majority of vets to survive. There are vets in Trinidad who have graduated and are working 6-day weeks and get $4,000 per month salary, and that's the reality that they can afford. And it's really a quality of life that's not commensurate with the level of work that's put into becoming a veterinarian and maintaining certain high quality standards in a clinic setting.
Yeah. Dr. Crooks, unfortunately, what I'm hearing coming out from what you're saying, it seems as if vets are overworked and underpaid. Is there an association or anything that can help vets to cope with what they do on a daily basis?
Absolutely. So we have been trying to work with business professionals to help vets get into that business mindset because you started talking about haggling. And really, vets are victim to or fall victim to emotional manipulation. Because we care for the animals that we see, we want to help. And an animal that's presented, if the owner says, look, doc, I don't have any money, that same owner uses the credit card to pay for whatever he purchases on Amazon, has a brand new iPhone, and is making car payments every month. But that person comes in and says, look, doc, I have no money. I found this stray dog on the side of the road. Could you help? And in situations like that, vets feel, and we can't help it, we are a caring profession, we feel the need to help. But every input that we now utilize to support and help this animal means that it is costing the vet, it is costing the business, it is taking away from the vet's ability to expand his business later on, to get new diagnostic technology, to bring on new staff members, to buy another vehicle, to get a driver. Those are the kinds of things that vets are unfortunately not able to do. So we've been working alongside persons to try to train our vets to run their businesses as businesses and to encourage that mindset. And also the Trinidad and Tobago Vet Association is trying to work like the legal profession and medical profession trying to come up with recommended price lists so that vets who graduate, who may not understand the rationale for pricing because there's no business training at vet school at the moment, those persons will be guided accordingly on how to set their prices.
Yeah. Dr. Crooks, I like that you mentioned pricing because I understand that you're trying to get away from the perception almost of, vets basing their prices on how they feel or how they feel about a particular animal or even about the owner of that particular pet. Can you give us a general, because of course it's going to vary based on the practice, based on, several factors, but can you give us an overview or maybe just an average of how much it might cost to do certain services? So one of the things I know for a fact is that a lot of people groom, they have their dogs groomed, and maybe they may have a surgery, maybe depending on what ailment the dog has. But can you give us just an average of what some of the prices of those services are?
Sure, I'll just use two examples as basic recommendations or basic what we've decided is generally going to capture the majority of vets and the recommendations that we have. So vaccination and deworming, which includes a physical examination of an animal to ensure that the animal is in good enough health to receive a vaccine. Usually it's accompanied by deworming. Some vets go even further and do fecal flotation to look for parasites in the stool. Some vets go even further and they may do blood tests alongside vaccine. But if you're looking at the physical examination, which is a consultation, and our consultation fee is a minimum $200 recommended. So just bringing an animal in and having the animal examined by the vet is $200. It should be a minimum of $200. The vaccination, generally it's sort of a package deal. So your consultation is included. You are looking at a minimum of $300 recommended for vaccinations. And then when you look at, let's use the example of a spay, which is the surgery to prevent reproduction in a female dog.
Right.
Depending again on how the vets process the surgery, if they're using gas anesthesia, other types of inputs prior to the surgery, how they maintain the surgical room. In all of those cases, you have to factor in additional costs, but a spay generally should be a minimum of around $1,500 and up for sustainable living for vets and for the ability to expand and grow their businesses. So people
Yeah.
need to understand that if you are paying for a spay that is $500, wherever you're doing that, there are going to be compromises. And those compromises are as a result of that reduced price. And you may end up with an animal that may have a higher risk of a negative outcome or other factors that we wouldn't want to even think about. So
Yeah.
these are the kinds of things that we have to consider when we recommend prices.
Of course. And Dr. Crooks, I imagine that you would also see those dog owners who take care of pets because it is the trendy thing to do. Because you gave that example about them having the new phone, but yet they don't have money on the credit card to assist their dogs. And so I'm wondering, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with owners who it's almost as if they pretend as if they care about the animal, but the animal is almost a crux, to also almost make them look cool or trendy?
Absolutely. You know how many times we've dealt with, and you can ask any vet, they've dealt with clients who paid $6,000 for a dog or more. And they say, we don't want to lose this dog. We spend plenty of money on it, but they can't pay the vet. They've had the animal suffering. The animal isn't being fed well. The animal is covered in fleas and ticks. The animal has never been vaccinated. And now the animal appears to be dying from, in many cases, a very preventable disease that would have been prevented had you been caring for the animal appropriately. And now they're coming to the vet and they're begging, oh gosh, I paid $6,000 for this dog. I don't want to lose it. So you all could do something to help me. I could pay you at the end of the month. Listen, I'll pay in parts. Or they'll tell you that they use excuses. Somebody, especially in Tobago, the owner would tell you, I traveled to Trinidad, I left it in my neighbor's care, and now the
Oh,
dog is looking
no.
like this. These are the kinds of things that we hear all the time. And the truth
Yes.
is, all of these excuses lead up to we won't be able to afford this. But here's the thing, you paid $6,000 for a dog, you're
Yeah.
paying $6,000 for a mobile phone. A dog should never be just for show. A dog has a very long life, and we encourage people to recognize that A puppy doesn't remain a puppy. They may be cute, playful, fun. Dogs are always cute and playful and fun, but some people think they buy this little 3 kilogram puppy and that's what they want. Then when the dog becomes 15 kilograms, 30 kilograms, 40 kilograms, they no longer want this dog. And now they realize the actual cost. I did an article once about the cost of care for a dog, and you're looking at thousands of dollars a year. And the question is, if you're buying chow, if you're vaccinating, if you're doing blood tests, if you're doing spays, neuters, can persons afford that? And that's something that you should think about, because owning a dog is a privilege.
Yes, I mean, you mentioned some of the costs there, and I was very concerned as well, because it is racking up into the thousands of dollars. But that as well leads to my next question, Dr. Crooks, because we would have seen a few years ago in Western societies, they would be the ones who would treat their pets almost as if they're humans. And so now we're seeing that same thing happening in TNT as well. Is there a level that people cross in terms of taking care of their animals, or is it a right that you should ensure that they are always well kept?
All animals should be well kept, because these animals have no choice in the matter. And again, it goes back to when vets joined the fraternity, when they start at the vet school, what is the thought process? The underlying thought process is, I want to help the helpless. I want to help the animals. I want to help these beings that cannot communicate. I want to help these beings that are put into situations that's where they suffer. And the reality is, therefore, if somebody decides to take a dog or a cat or a sheep, that person is taking the responsibility of care. If you are deciding to adopt a child, you must be able to provide for that child. Children's Authority and anywhere in the world will assess your background, your bank account, your salary, to ensure that you are capable of caring for this child before an adoption process can go through. And it should be a similar way with animals, where the animals require care for their lives. The way that you care for a dog or cat or cow changes depending on the age of the animal, its physiological state, whether it's pregnant, not pregnant, whether it's pre-pubertal, after puberty. The way that you manage these animals, even if it's geriatric, for example, the way that you manage the costs change. But bottom line is that these animals require that consistent level of care and dedication. And we have been seeing an increase in the number of owners who recognize that and who really think of the animals in their care as part of their family.
Dr. Crooks, I have two quick questions, although I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to squeeze them in quickly. My first question is, I'm going to be a little advocate here and say that there are some people who would say, listen, we have our Trinidadian Terriers, right? We have our Patongs, as they're called, right? We give them some brown rice, we leave them outside, and they grow, and they're strong, and they appear to be healthy. So what is the difference between that and somebody who, or an animal that, you know, may need a certain level of care? Is it the breed that we need to consider, or what things need to be considered when we look at those two situations?
Well, I'll tell you what it is an undervaluing of the patong, our poor patongs, because the truth is, any animal may survive in the circumstances described, may survive, including a human. Should the animal be in that situation? That's the question. Because it's a husky, now you want to ensure you build a nice pen and you have the animal out of the rain, and you have the dog bowl, and you buy chow. But you have a patong who running around the yard, he don't have any place to shelter, you don't buy any chow for him, you just give him old rice and whatever scraps wherever your child bring home from school feeding and that sort of thing. The level of care given to those animals should actually be equal. The reason why people think patongs can survive is because what they do with the patongs is, if a dog has 10 puppies and 2 or 3 of the puppies survive from the litter, and that's usually what happens, the dogs get knocked down, they eat poison, they run away, whatever happens with them. If only 2 or 3 survive from the litter, people think that, look, patongs are survivors. But if you had a husky who had 10 puppies and only 2 survive, people would panic.
And Dr. Crooks, quickly, I'm only giving you 30 seconds. I know there's a very, very important issue about vets not being labeled as equivalent to their colleagues who are also in the medical field. With 30 seconds, can you speak to that quickly for us, please?
Absolutely. I just want to say that vet medicine training is as costly, as time consuming, and in many cases, even possibly more challenging than human medicines. We use human medicine. We use many of the same medications that come at a very high cost. We have many of the same bills to pay. We, of course, have to take loans that we have to pay back. So I'm asking people to please recognize and value that vets are medical professionals.
Dr. Crooks, always a pleasure. And we always have this problem where we run out of time. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. And you know we're going to have you in again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And that was President of the TNT Veterinary Services and founder of the Tobago Animal Hospital, Dr. Paul Crooks, just sharing some information about the services of vets and their importance to society. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.